Bé, bona tarda.
Good evening.
Arribem a la fase final.
We're getting to the
de
final
maratoniana,
stage of this
però
session, which is a very long session.
potser la part més
But maybe this is the most exciting part.
per aquí. Doncs passem a aquesta darrera
So
part
let's start this last session of today's session, of today's event,
amb aquest acte
with this
del Premi Linguapax
award ceremony of the International Prize Linguapax 2017. As you know, it has a yearly award as an acknowledgement of the action on favor of language diversity and revitalization of language communities, and eligible for this award can be entities or individuals from the academia and society, civil society, who have done a remarkable work or in their activism. It is a unique award in its category because it acknowledges different and complementary visions of language and cultural diversity, and it has it's been in existence for 60 years, and it has consolidated as a prestigious award. Among the awardees, there are different organizations such as the Association for International Languages in Canada, which was awarded the prize last year, and today we have her president today. Thank you
for joining us in this very special occasion as the president of the International Heritage Language Association from Alberta in Canada. Thank you for being here. Altres premiats destacats han estat...
Other awardees have been Xavier Albó, Ganesh David, Georgia Fishman, Neville Alexander, who has been mentioned today, Maya Gamble David, Michael Siwan, who has been also mentioned by Felix Martí, a very active and esteemed person and one of the founders of Linguapax, John Landavaru, have also been awarded with this award, and they have been or will be in Barcelona these days, but unfortunately they are not able to be here today, but they send their congratulations to the awardee this year, the winner. Mrs. Laura Pérez, who is the counselor for international relationships and cooperation. Apart from other cooperations that we carry out, this year the Town Council has also been willing to support the award and this ceremony. Mrs. Pérez, the floor is yours.
Good evening, and thank you very much. I'd like to thank you for inviting me because it's a pleasure to be here with Mònica, the president of Linguapax, but all the team that during so many years has been constantly working. It's a pleasure to be present at this award. As we were discussing today, this celebration of the 30th anniversary has been a success, and tomorrow we will continue reflecting with a lot of academic activists and people who want to reflect on linguistic diversity. Will be here and at Patty Manning tomorrow. So I wish you every success during these days. These 3 years should make us reflect about the challenges in the next 30 years at least. So now I'm representing the mayor and in the area of international relations. So we wanted to be here present because the technical team of the town council, has a special interest in Linguapax. Several people who are here with me are supporting projects from the political sphere due to their importance, innovation, and because they help us reflect on the tools that we have for peace and to know other cultures. I'm not an expert in this topic, but I remember when I was in Peru, it was important to study Quechua, and when I came back, people said, well, that's what you did there. And I said, well, what I did was to get to know the culture and words that don't exist in Spain, talk about the moments and the reality of the indigenous cultures of Peru. And it was difficult to make myself understood, half in Spanish, half in Quechua, but if you have the will to do it, you can do it. And finally, I would like to mention the role of cities, which is becoming more global and more connected, especially in complicated political contexts like the present one. The role of Barcelona is even more relevant. So Barcelona is a good laboratory for cultural diversity. It's an example of diversity of languages. So I would like to encourage this project, this entity, which is becoming more recognized. And the Town Council of Barcelona will always be supporting it. Thank you very much. And I'd like to congratulate the awardees, and I wish you a fruitful day tomorrow.
Procedim, doncs.
So let's proceed, and today among the 24 applications from around the world, the jury made up by 40 international experts has chosen Matthias Brenzinger. He is a linguist coming from the German academia, expert on African languages, and pioneer in the study of endangered languages and promoter of the revitalization of languages in Africa and Asia in particular. He's been the author of reference books about endangered languages. He has participated in the Atlas of the UNESCO. He has created revitalization programs, and he is a promoter of many studies, projects, and initiatives. And in 2012, he created the Center for the African Diversity in Cape Town in order to maintain sustainability of linguistic diversity in the continent. Brenzinger has always been a visiting professor in Tokyo and Kyoto, where he cooperated with Japanese Africanists, but also with academics, and in favor of Genjo in Korea, of the revitalization of these languages. It was the Linguapax Asia delegation, the one that presented his candidacy to the award. The jury has highlighted him because of his theoretical contribution and for promoting actively the training of linguists among endangered languages. But today we have two people who are much better qualified to talk about his work and career and life. On the one hand, Professor Bernd Heine, he is
African Studies. Until 2004, he held the chair for African Studies at the University of Cologne in Germany. His main focal points in research and teaching are African linguistics, language sociology, grammaticalization theory, and language contact. For his scientific work, he has carried out field research trips as well as lecturing trips in the 5 continents. He has been guest professor in universities all over the world and received important awards recognizing his work. But despite the fact that his reflections and contributions, fruit of his fascinating and exciting professional career, would be of great interest of all of us, today we have invited him to tell us about our award winner and his relationship with him. Thank you for accepting our invitation, Mr. Heine. Yours is the floor.
Thank you very much, Mònica, for these kind words of introduction, not only on me, but also on someone else. I don't need to mention his name. Unlike most of you here, I was not really familiar with what Linguapax is about before coming here. Now I am aware, and I am amazed and really surprised about the activities that Lingua Franca has been carried out in the course of the last 3 decades and the achievements that it has made so far. So my congratulations to the organization as a whole, and of course also to the organizers of this meeting. But my topic is Matthias Brenzinger. And when reviewing his vita, it would seem that there are most of all 3 themes that shaped his scholarly career. The first concerns the world of African languages, as already pointed out by Mònica. The second relates to the situation of the underprivileged, more specifically the marginalized communities in remote areas, while the third theme concerns the endangerment of language in Africa, but also in other parts of the world. One may say that these themes are in some way interrelated, and for Matthias Brenzinger, they are also chronologically related. While being exposed to the linguistic and cultural wealth that African languages display, he was attracted in particular by the situation of those African communities that are located at the periphery and the lower end of the scale of social interaction. And some of these marginalized communities speak languages that are seriously endangered, some being on the verge of extinction. Mattias thus became, as Mònica already also mentioned, a pioneer in the study of language endangerment, in particular with the non-Bantu click languages of Southern Africa. Some people know them by the old name of Khoisan languages. All this was hard to predict if one looks at the earlier phases of Matthias Brenzinger's life. Born in a rural area in southwestern Germany, he grew up as a village boy in a social environment where everybody knew everybody else, talked to everybody, and was friendly to and helped each other. This was apparently an experience that he preserved in later phases of his life. Another experience soon followed when he felt the need to escape the beautiful scenery of his home near the Black Forest. And in search for wider geographical and intellectual horizons, even if this meant spending several years believe it or not, living on a farm in a servant's quarter above the pig pen. This second experience was the following. Once he left his home area, he noticed that people elsewhere in Germany did not understand him. He soon realized what it meant to be being lost, speaking a dialect that brandmarks you as belonging to a somewhat parochial minority group. Traveling became close to an obsession to him, and being confronted with the fascinating countries and cultures across the world, his interest arose in the languages of the people he met. It was therefore a natural step that in 1980 he joined the Institute of African Studies at the University of Cologne, and for the following 28 years, this institution became his academic, but also his social home. First as a student, later on as a teaching assistant, and finally as a member of the research and teaching staff. The year 2012 marked a next phase in his academic career when he was recruited by the University of Cape Town. This new environment enabled him to found the Center for African Language Diversity, mostly known as CALDI. And in this short note, it is hardly possible to enumerate all the academic achievements of Mattias. These achievements emerged from the three themes that I mentioned at the beginning. His love for Africa, for the African continent, the people of Africa, and most of all, its 2,000 plus languages induced him to become active in promoting African linguistics. Consequently, he was elected as a member of the Standing Committee of the World Congress of African Linguistics, which entrusted him with organizing the 6th World Congress in 2009 and with serving as its Secretary General. If one aims at starting one's academic career as a student in Mali or Malawi or the Central African Republic, what one is confronted with is hard to compare with what one, a student in Europe or the United States or Japan is faced. In most of Africa, library and other university facilities are deficient. Internet is a luxury that may not be regularly available, and funds for traveling to widen one's academic horizon are likely to be missing. More than most other colleagues that I know, Mattias is aware of all these shortcomings that young African academics are faced with, and more than most other colleagues, he has struggled to enable young African scholars to overcome such shortcomings and become internationally competitive scholars. His interest in endangered languages and the fate of their speakers became the major theme of his activities. To this end, he became involved in UNESCO initiatives. I think I don't need to go through all of that. It was mentioned already and is probably known to most of you. Subsequently, his focus of interest was in the marginalized Click language-speaking communities in Southern Africa, widely known as San or Khoisan-speaking people. In cooperation with the speech community, he developed a practical orthography for the Khoisan language of southwestern Africa, and he was centrally involved in developing it into a written language. One of his main achievements can be seen in authoring jointly with Sheena Shah the book Oma Khelmeid Kikru, something like that. Which is a trilingual reader which has found quite some interest not only in South Africa but also elsewhere in the world. Africa is the continent where Matthias Brenzinger always felt at home and where most of his research activities took place. But his concern for marginalized peoples and languages led him to many other countries across the world and to carry out research on endangered languages and to adopt a cross-linguistic typological perspective on language endangerment. This perspective induced him, on the one hand, to delve into the problems of minority languages, such as of Jeju in South Korea, or Ryukyuan in Japan, and on the other hand, to produce seminal publications such as the 2007 book, Language Diversity Endangered. At the beginning of this glossa, three major themes characterizing Matthias's academic career were mentioned. This list does not exhaust the range of topics that he has been dealing with in his life. In concluding, at least a couple of additional topics can be mentioned. Both can, in some sense, be derived from the themes that I already mentioned. One concerns his role as an academic teacher at the University of Cape Town, and especially as a founder of CALDI, where his focus of activities is on recruiting and supporting young African scholars, not only from the Republic of South Africa, but also from other countries across the African continent. And a final topic can, with some imagination, be linked to his interest in marginalized communities, with himself having emerged from a linguistic minority. But these communities now were not restricted to the human species, rather they also include bee communities. During his research in Africa, he noticed that for some of the nowadays marginalized African traditional hunter-gatherer peoples, collecting honey has become a major, and in some cases even the only main income of life. He therefore decided to devote part of his work to the study of bees, of beekeeping, and honey collection. As is well known, honeybee colonies may have more recently been declared an endangered population in many parts of the world, especially due to the extensive use of insecticides. Thus, with his decision to study honeybees and apiculture in Africa more than 3 decades ago, long before others did, Matthias Brenzinger was the same kind of pioneer that he turned out to be later in his study and the revitalization of endangered languages. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heine. La següent persona que intervindrà és la
speak
doctora Carme
will
Junyent,
be Dr. Carme Junyent, Professor of Linguistics of the University of Barcelona in research in endangered languages, linguistic anthropology, and languages of immigration in Catalonia. He's the director of the group for study of endangered languages, and she has written on the situation of several languages in the world and linguistic diversity. She has led the inventory of languages in Catalonia, more than 300, and she has commissioned exhibitions about the languages in Catalonia, and she has participated in several discussions about the management of languages in Catalonia. She has received several awards, and she has written an important number of publications. But apart from her academic qualifications, the involvement with society, and knowing about languages in Africa, she's here because after studying philology in the University of Barcelona, she completed her training in Germany in the Marburg and Köln University, where she met Matthias Brenzinger, and she has maintained a close relationship with him. So I'm sure that you have something to tell us about Matthias. So
Bé, bona tarda. Gràcies per haver vingut.
good evening. Thank you for coming, and I would like to thank Linguapax for inviting me to do this glossa for Dr. Brenzinger.
De fet, quan pensava que podria
When I was thinking about what I could tell you,
amb qüestions personals
I was thinking about some personal
molts anys.
things, because we've known each other for many years, almost 40, and we share many things. While we were both students of Professor Heine, but it's true that after what Professor Heine has said, you already have an idea, an accurate idea, because he knows him very well, and they're real friends. They're the best of friends I've ever met from any perspective. So he has talked about him both personally and academically. So I thought I should talk about the opportunity of this award in the context of the Linguapax Awards and in the context of the study of endangered languages. So Linguapax is now celebrating its 30th anniversary. It's an entity that I have been following since the beginning. And well, you can read the story, but someplace else, but I don't have to tell it, but it's remarkable that due to several circumstances,
D'una banda s'estableix a Barcelona i de l'altra s'encaminés molt
on the one hand, he came to Barcelona, and then he also wanted to preserve linguistic diversity. We're late in the 80s and early in the 90s, and back then here nobody thought about endangered languages or any other language. And I'm talking from my experience, because I know that they didn't pay attention to me, but there were entities, well, not necessarily academic, but one of them was the UNESCO Center, which created Linguapax, several other entities like CIDOP, which started to look outward, and we're worried about knowing other cultures and other languages. So from the perspective of the years, and especially now if we look at the awardees, we see quite clearly that whatever these entities have done, there was a strong crisis in between, but Linguapax was clearly headed towards revitalization of languages. So you've already talked about this, but I think that we should remember once more that one of the Linguapax Awards was Neville Alexander, and Mattias is now continuing his task in Cape Town. Apart from the history of Linguapax, there's the issue of endangered languages, which is Matthias Brenzinger's specialty, and where he is a pioneer. In fact, it may seem strange, but linguistics took a long time to worry about the death of languages. The great linguists were working with disappearing languages, and well, yeah, they made some comments lamenting that the data was lost, but nobody thought about not the feelings of speakers, but the fact that this death should be studied. And there's an article by Bernd Heine in the 30s. He wrote a couple more in the 50s. In the 60s, we see the pioneering work by Fishman, and he was another Linguapax awardee. In the 70s, there was work by Nancy Dorian, who studied these linguistic aspects of the death of languages. And there was a key year, which was 1992. Now that we're in Barcelona, this was also a key year. But in the study of the death of languages last year, in the study of the death of languages, significant things happened. There was a monograph of a journal, Language, from a previous symposium, and Ken Hill participated, who died some years ago, Colette Greenewald, who's a good friend of Linguapax, and Jella, Michael Kraus, who's a friend of Alicia, but also Linguapax, Kei Yamamoto, and Lucille Watakamigi, John Laverne, and Nora England. These were the authors who were participating in this monograph. And in the year 92, Congress was held in the Laval University, and the main topic was linguistic diversity. But in the year 62, this book was published, edited by Matthias Brenzinger, and I read these. He speaks about his objective, what he sets out to do, because they had held the book was published in the year 92. The Congress was held in the year 19. These were the minutes. So the general goal of the symposium was to provide case studies in order to help understand the processes of language shift better and to stimulate further research towards a theory of language death. So I think that here, for the first time, we see a specific approach to make this a topic of study, branch of knowledge, And I think that the pioneering work of Mr. Brenzinger is undisputable. So some years later, he published this book on endangered languages in Africa. He's an Africanist. Well, I just wanted to show the most significant ones. In 2007, there's another one, which is language diversity endangered. And here we can find, apart from all the authors of this monograph of the year 92, we can see a who's who in the study of endangered languages. So Matthias, well, when we say that this is an international book, we just have some European countries and the United States, but here authors from all over the world approach this topic. So I think that these are the most significant factors regarding this work on endangered languages. But Professor Heine has said that he's not just an academician, but also an activist. So recently he published a real jewel, which is this book. And Professor Heine has tried it, but well, she's a speaker from the south of Africa. So she becomes a language teacher for all of us. So if you want, I'll show it to you if you want to take a look, because this book is precious as an object. And I think that this is very important, but because often when we see publications like these, we see things which consist of stapled sheets of paper, but this is spectacular work which shows the dedication and the vocation involved. Well, I've mentioned some of the authors in the book, but I forgot to say that in the book there are some Linguapax awardees. For example, one of the first, about Malia, 2002, Joshua Fishman, John Landaburu, who will be here next week in Barcelona, and Xavier Bo. So I would like to talk about the Matthias's qualities, because he's not a linguist who does field work, and then the community doesn't really know whatever became of the data he contributed. He's a researcher who's really responsible and highly involved with communities. So I would like to ask him, I know he's very busy, but he should look for time to write his memoirs, because those of us who have shared those who have spent time with him, we know that his life is not just limited to linguistics. And I think that if he try to recall his experiences these experiences will allow us to know about the people who have fought to change the world. Sometimes he has talked about friends of his who died of AIDS. This is one of the African plagues, and how he's been looking for speakers of specific languages, and the meetings he's had with gorillas. So I think that his life would deserve these memoirs, and I hope he does it. So after hearing Professor Heine And now trying to put him into context, it's clear that this award, as any other Linguapax Award, but well, regarding the Matthias' trajectory, I think that it fits really well these goals, and it reaffirms what those of us who work on this know, that with this Linguapax Award we're creating models to follow. So when we look for models or someone who can speak with authority, the list that the Linguapax is doing with the awards can really create a canon. So we have to thank Linguapax for their work. I would like to congratulate them for these 30 years of work, 16 years of awards, and I hope that they continue working along these lines. And I would like to congratulate Mattias, because he's also a part of this family, Linguapax. Thank you.
Moltes gràcies, Carme. Moltes gràcies.
Thank you very much, Carme. Thank you, Mr. Heine. And this is the final, the most moving moment. Professor Brenzinger, please.
I am very honored to present you with this award. I offer you my congratulations on behalf of Linguapax Board and on behalf of the whole jury that has chosen you among these 24 candidates. So congratulations. It is a truly acknowledgement of your achievements and of your tireless efforts and commitment with the languages of cultures that contribute to make our world richer and wiser. Congratulations. If you want to address us some words.
So I was asked to prepare a talk which is printed, and I think I don't want to repeat this whole thing, because a lot of the stuff which I mention has already been said by Bernd, and it's very late, and all of us are quite tired, I think. So I skip things which I think which are already have said, and so I try not to be too chaotic with this thing. How do I get this one? Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank Linguapax and Alicia and Mònica and Amelie for organizing this wonderful conference and this wonderful event. And I like to congratulate Linguapax for the 30th anniversary and all the great work which they do. And it's of course a great honor to be now in this list of Linguapax Award winners, all these big names, and Ganesh Devi and Joshua Fishman and others who contributed to the study and preservation of language diversity in one way or another. So since I'm now living on the African continent for the last 6 years, permanently, I'd like to mention the two scholars, African scholars who received the award. from the African continent, so Neville Alexander and Maurice Tadadjeu. So both of them died in 2012. And they were great scholars in academic, so they had significant academic contributions, but also took on tasks more widely in their countries, like in South Africa as well as in Cameroon, and also internationally. They were both members, I think founding members of the African Academy of Languages, ACALAN, which was based in Addis Ababa. And the main objective was to intellectualize African languages, so they wanted to promote the study and use of African languages in African universities. And that was the main objective of this. And slowly, it seems that at least in South Africa now, that there is some people are listening, and scholars like Russell Kashula now are getting money and support for the support of the use of African languages on the university level. And this is of eminence important for the decolonizing, to get over the colonized mindset, which is perpetuated through the use of European languages at universities. So Neville was one of the leading anti-apartheid activists that, as most of you probably know. And so he was in Robben Island for 10 years and remained to be a revolutionary till his very end. And so all the money he got, he always gave to township libraries. So he established a lot of township libraries. And he was also very active in the promotion of what he called mother tongue-based multilingual education, and he developed strategies on teaching African languages with this, and he founded the project for the study of alternative education in South Africa, which is better known as BRESA. And just to let you know, so this was at the University of Cape Town, and so the vice chancellor, when Neville Alexander died, he asked me to speak, the vice chancellor, at a big function, and then he told me that Neville created a lot of problems for the university, because when he founded BRESA, he insisted that he, as director, and the cleaners get the same salary, which is not possible in this kind of university settings, but he insisted and he pushed it through. So that was one of the problems the vice chancellor mentioned when I spoke to him. And so when I now Googled Neville in the internet, I saw that in Wikipedia, his profile, there is this category known for, and known for, I mean, he was instrumental in the new constitution. South Africa has half of the first chapter is on languages, and this is also mainly due to his input that African languages received official status, because he was heavily involved in that. But all this is ignored. So when in this Wikipedia entry, it only says jailmate of Nelson Mandela and Linguapax winner. So that's, I think that's quite something, and it shows how important your award is internationally. I'll skip this, and then I would like to mention Bernd Heine. It's wonderful that you invited Bernd Heine, because basically all I did is due to his support. So he when I arrived at the institute in 1980, I was quite messed up somehow. As he mentioned, I was living on a stable above pigs, and so. But he somehow helped me to get into this university, and I got interested right from the beginning in working on minority languages, because this is what he did. Right from the 60s, his first field work, he always went to East Africa and studied lesser known languages. His PhD in Togo was on the Togo remnant languages, which were hardly known at that time. So right from the beginning, he actually documented endangered languages. Most of them are no longer spoken, and this triggered my interest in this topic. I'd like also to thank the Linguapax Award members of the Linguapax board and the International Advisory Board for selecting me, which came to me as a big surprise, because I never thought that I would qualify for this at that level, you know. So, and yeah, okay. I actually just wanted to show some pictures of, this is like Neville in Cape Town. So this is our beautiful University of Cape Town, the main campus. And this is Neville and Bernd Heine in Ethiopia at Wokal in 2006. So we all know each other for a very long time. And so I want to mention my thanks. I would like to thank to the Linguapax Asia, because they were the ones who nominated me, which comes as a surprise because I work mainly on African languages and I live on the African continent, but I also lived in Japan for a year, in Tokyo, and then Kyoto for 6 months, and then but many months after that as well. And I got involved in the study of Ryukyuan languages, so I'm one of the founding members of the Society of the Ryukyuan Languages Studies, and I also supported Jeju activists. And so I want to use this opportunity to mention some of the two of the heroes for language revitalization. I consider them to be, Larry Kimura to me is the most incredible person, because of him there are now 2,500 mother tongue speakers, first speakers of Hawaiian, and through his activities, and then the one on the right with the glasses, Pila Wilson. So he is one of his first students, and he's now the director of the Center for Hawaiian Studies, a professor at the University of Hawaii. And they dedicated all their life to the revival of Hawaiian. And on the left is Byron Ficha from Okinawa, and he is one of their most prominent language activists. So we were invited to Hawaii to present talks on the situation of the Ryukyuan languages, and that was when I was taking the picture. Yeah. So one of the things which I think had the most impact was that I managed, after 1 year of fighting with UNESCO, that they finally acknowledged Jeju, to include Jeju as an endangered language. And this has had major impacts on the promotion of the language. So their provincial government of the self-governing province of Jeju Island, since then they officially receive support, and there is a lot of studies going on, and it also changed the attitude of the speakers, the few remaining old speakers. And in 2015 I was invited to celebrate the 5th year of recognition of the language. So it's a big step, and it shows that those activities and UNESCO has a role to play in these kind of things. Now, I got involved with UNESCO on the endangered languages from 1993 onwards. And then this is the launch of the Red Book of Endangered Languages. I'm not going to, and this is then one of the major events at UNESCO where we had these documents, and I decided to have this picture because I expected Victis Finbogadotir to be here, but she's not, and she was there as ambassador for languages. And okay, so then this is the center which I founded when I came to Cape Town in 2012. I founded the Center for African Language Diversity, and there is a Facebook page which it just says Kaldi Facebook, so there you see activities of the center. And so one of the greatest moments, and what I thought is something I should share, because it shows that, because many of my colleagues, they say, why do you care about orthographies, developing orthographies, because these languages are oral languages, so you don't need to write them. But as Peter Austin already mentioned, it very often has a very important effect on the speakers. And so this picture I took in January when I passed the Caprivi. I stopped in a small new settlement, which I didn't know, and then I went in and I saw that there was this John Beleko with, I didn't know his name, he was teaching young Kwe children to read and write in Kwe before they even entered school. Many of them actually will never enter school, regular school. And I was very surprised, and I asked him, so who taught you to write? And I said, Matthias Brenzinger. And that was so funny because, I mean, that was 22 years ago. And so he was one of those joining this 3 days workshop. And he since then was teaching. And it's a very important thing for people who live like that to be able to read and write means overcoming the negative stereotypes they are confronted with. So many of them accept that there are nothing. And I remember exactly what you said. The exact same phrase was one of the Kwe when we had this workshop. When he wrote the first sentence, he said, so we really speak a language. It can be written, it has rules. And this is something which is very, very important. So even if for practical purposes, writing might not be that important, it's very important to support these communities in these efforts for gaining self-esteem. And I just mentioned now the last project which led to the production of this book with Sheena Shah, who is a colleague of Peter Austin in ETSOAS. And so she was with Kaldi as a postdoc for 3 years, and we produced this reader. So first we had to facilitate workshops where we decided on a community orthography. The language has 46 different clicks, and then a lot of additional consonants, and then also the vowels. They have a complex vowel system. They have pressed vowels like and and so on, and nasalized vowels, so they're all distinctive. So we first have the alphabet charts, which you see at the wall, and then on the right is an animal chart with animal names, because all children, when they attend the school, they choose animal names. So they use new names of those animals. And this is their cover, which you saw already. This is how it looks like. So the first language is Nu, and then it's translated in Afrikaans, but it's not standard Afrikaans. It's Oranje Rivier Afrikaans, which is quite different, and it's a rural variety spoken in the Northern Cape, and English is only their additional language. And finally, I like to thank Carme for her speech. And so this is a picture I took many years ago when you came to Cologne. So this was an exhibition in Cologne with my daughter. My daughter then later on came to Barcelona to study here. And then so I end by thanking my family for allowing me to live like I do, because I'm now with their especially now with the grandchildren, 3 grandchildren. I'm in Cape Town and they are in Germany, so it's not always easy for them. So this is when they were visiting me in the Caprivi. And this is the last picture. So this is my car. It's an endangered language rescue car. So if you see there is a rapid response. So if there is any endangered language, they can call us and then we rescue the language immediately. And I'll end with that. Thank you very much.
Molt bé, doncs acabem la jornada d'avui.
We now officially close today's event, and we'll toast with a glass of cava to celebrate the award, and we'll reconvene tomorrow, not here, but at the Patty Manning, close to the CCCB of Barcelona. Thank you very much.
Yes, we have to take a picture.